The lawmaker from South region has called for immediate resignation or sack of the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Sadia Farouk. The lawmaker reacted to the statement of the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs on the numbers of the dead persons in the region, mentioned by the Honorable Minister that South is not part of the 10th most affected state in the times of the recent ravaged flood. Speaking with journalists, Honorable Fred Agbede from Bayelsa State, as a spokesperson, said that the statement by the Honorable Minister is not true, is false, and is not acceptable.
Our attention has been drawn to an address by the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development on the 3rd of November 2022, where she said Bayelsa State is not amongst the top 10 most affected states by the 2022 flood that is currently ravaging some states in the country. She is reported to have made the comments in response to the plea from Elder Statesman Chief E.K. Clark, leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, imploring the federal government to act quickly by immediately providing relief materials to the victims of the flood in the Niger Delta states, especially Bayelsa. The minister's assumption is based on the following. 1, the number of deaths and displaced persons per state, the number of injured, the number of partially damaged houses, the number of totally damaged houses, the number of farmlands totally and partially damaged. Surprisingly, she put the number of persons injured in Bayelsa State at 81 and the number of deaths at 91. The minister is wrong, dead wrong. Reports from the Flood Management Committee and traditional rulers indicate that thousands are wounded and hundreds of our citizens died. In fact, even one dead person is enough for our country to show responsibility and sympathy to our people. We wish to bring to the minister's attention that the entire Niger Delta states of Rivers, Delta, Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, Edo, Imo, and Cross River are highly impacted. The state can only be connected through the waterways or by air. So how does the minister even dare to compare such a badly hit state to any other? We, the Niger Delta members of the House of Representatives, strongly and unequivocally condemn in strong terms the statement credited to the Honorable Minister as insensitive, unpatriotic, and unnationalistic. While we are not denying the fact that other states in the Federation are also affected, the comparison and figures given by the Honorable Minister shows a glaring attempt to downplay the harsh reality on ground. We are talking of human beings, fellow Nigerians, and not some aliens. The figures are not only an insult to the good people of Bayelsa State, but to all the victims of the flood who has gone through trauma of braving the elements by sleeping outside on dug-out canoes, rooftops, and flood water floors. The Honorable Minister, instead of visiting the affected areas to get first-hand information and empathize with the victims, is relying on some armchair statisticians from far away Abuja to paint a fake picture to Nigerians.
In the same way, other members from the same region laid their voice to the same issue.
I have deemed this necessary. This call for the minister's resignation or sacking is premised on her history of potentially discriminatory behavior since she became a minister. We all know what happened during COVID. What she's doing now is an exemplification of her, what we see in politics, our style of politics, is politics of prebendalism, okay, where state resources are, funneled to areas where they are less needed, and people who need them more are allowed to grow. It was a moment of, maybe unintended truth for her to have made that comment. It's not just divisive, it's offensive. We are offended, and the main reason why we're asking her to leave is so that we can find persons who bring into public office more edifying values than this woman.
As having to play politics of settlement, compensation when you have persons without requisite knowledge, requisite capacity, handle certain positions. This is exactly what you would find. I am still at a loss as how we arrived at that thinking that the basin area is not as affected as probably the head of the slope. All of us have things to do with water. If you pour water around your environment, it naturally and normally will run down the slope. And the Niger Delta environment is a collection point before this water empties into the ocean. And if somebody will sit down in Abuja and tell you that you are not affected, it simply means that there is a disconnect. No wonder there have been so much from my people as to ask us to also ask the generality of Nigerians, especially those who appropriate the resources that are aimed at alleviating our challenges, if indeed we are part of the equation, if we ever considered for anything. The last time major canalizations, dredging, and shore protections were handled in the Niger Delta environment is over 3 decades.
First and foremost, let me condemn in strong terms the remarks made by the Honorable Minister for Humanitarian Affairs that Bayelsa is not among the worst impacted states, insensitive to our sensibility and as a people. In fact, it's an insult for her to make that statement, knowing that people were undergoing this serious, war without guns. We were at the war front. It's just that guns were not shot. People were completely displaced houses. People were sleeping in canoes, rooftops, on flood water floors, and she is saying that the people are not impacted. I went around my state before the main flood and during the flood. Okay, she's talking about number of deaths. She's saying 81 people died, 80 persons died. 80 persons, and that is only to a minister that is being paid with taxpayers' money, a minister that is being paid with the wealth that comes from the Niger Delta. She's saying that 80-something persons. She's definitely wrong. I know. I met traditional rulers who told me number of deaths in their villages.
David Eko, hello, Miss.